On the buzz beater this Sunday, the mainstream media, even the liberal pundits, portraying Hillary Clinton as badly wounded by the email debacle, especially after her contentious exchange with Ed Henry.
Did you wipe the server?
What, like with a cloth or something?
I don't know. You know how it works digitally. Did you try to wipe the whole server?
I don't know how it works digitally at all. I do not have any.
You did not try.
Ed, I know you want to make a point, and I can just repeat what I have said.
Is this an indication that this issue isn't going to go away for the remainder of your campaign?
Nobody talks to me about it, other than you guys.
But is the press over-dramatizing the damage to the Democratic frontrunner? And why isn't she doing more national TV interviews? Donald Trump doing plenty of interviews, driving the media coverage again with an immigration plan that would end so-called birthright citizenship. And he gets grilled by Bill O'Reilly.
And do you envision federal police kicking in the doors in barrios around the country, dragging families out and putting them on a bus? Do you envision that?
Bill, I don't think they have American citizenship. We have to start a process where we take back our country. Our country is going to hell.
And even Trump seemed surprised that all three cable news networks carried his big Alabama rally.
Why don't they just cover me like anybody else, where they go the next day and they show a little clip? Every time I speak, it has to be live. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Is television giving the Donald too much airtime? A New York Times expose portrays Amazon as a cyber sweatshop where employees cry at their desks, trash colleagues on an internal system, and in some cases are forced out if they develop health problems, drawing strong denials from Jeff Bezos and his well-known spokesman.
People like Jeff Bezos, the founder, and people who've been at the company for 10 or 15 years don't recognize the Amazon that the New York Times wrote about.
What is it that you don't recognize?
Well, this is an incredibly compelling place to work.
Is this solid reporting or a smear against Amazon? Plus, are the media really going to chase cheaters based on the criminal hacking of Ashley Madison? I'm Howard Kurtz, and this is Media Buzz. Hillary Clinton's strained relations with the press got a whole lot worse this week as her email mess blew up. Many journalists panning her performance at a Nevada news conference where Fox News correspondent Ed Henry questioned her about the FBI investigation into her private server.
Bob Woodward yesterday was suggesting there's shades of Watergate here in how you're reacting. And Eugene Robinson, who's not a conservative, a liberal columnist, Washington Post today, said that at the very least, you've stonewalled, and he said that you should tell the American people, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But instead, in recent days, you've been talking about Snapchat, you've been blaming the Republican attacks. Is it leadership about taking responsibility?
Well, I take responsibility. That does not change the facts. And no matter what anybody tries to say, the facts are stubborn. What I did was legally permitted. Number one, first and foremost.
Facts also are that two inspectors general say that there are hundreds, they believe.
But Ed, you're not listening to me.
As Ed Henry mentioned, Washington Post columnist Gene Robinson saying Hillary's email answers are insulting our intelligence, while conservative commentators denounced her.
Everybody knows she's not telling the truth, including people on her campaign, and yet she keeps doing it. It is a painful, painful thing to watch.
I think she could be doing better, frankly. She has been acting, well, really servicing that Clinton stereotype of having built a fortress around herself, being isolated, not giving enough answers instead of being really candid.
I think that Hillary Clinton is a shell of a candidate on the verge of political collapse.
But is the press going too far in suggesting Hillary's campaign ship is sinking? Joining us now, Amy Holmes, an anchor at The Blaze TV. A.B. Stoddard, associate editor and columnist for The Hill. And Fred Francis, former NBC senior correspondent, now with 15seconds.com. Purely in terms of reporter and candidate, how did Hillary Clinton do? How did Ed Henry do at that news conference?
Well, it's interesting, Howie, that you use the term performance, because it seems like the political media is acting more as theater critics, and Hillary Clinton getting the Razzie Award for worst press conference for a presidential candidate. She obviously did very poorly, but what about getting to the substance of what the email scandal is about? Why did she use a private server? Why did she want to evade scrutiny? What's in in those emails, and what does it say about her as Secretary of State and our national security?
Well, I think reporters were trying to find that out. Fred, a lot of pundits talking about this news conference were focusing on her shrug and the way she walked away and what's been widely described as her testy demeanor. Do these things matter?
It matters. Optics matter. Listen, reporters know in 1994 during the Whitewater incident, she gave a 72-minute press conference at the White House.
Famous pink press conference.
The pink press conference. Here was the awful in orange press conference. In the pink press conference, she was cool, she was unflappable. Reporters know she can be like that. Here, she's defensive. She's hiding something. That's the image she's giving, and that's what the reporters are taking away from it, that she is hiding something. She needs to change.
A.B., Hillary said as she was walking away, we just saw it there, nobody asked about the email, it's only you media types. Could she have a point?
If she controls the audiences that she speaks to, yeah, so far they're not really asking about it. But if you look at the numbers in polling, this is a serious issue. If you talk to Democrats privately, this is a serious issue. Some of them are coming out publicly now. Just this week, we heard some comments from Congressman Yarmouth and Senator Bill Nelson, others who are concerned about the appearance of dishonesty, how badly this has been handled. So she can say this is some media-driven thing. Since March, she hasn't answered the central question that Amy raises. Why did you have a private server? What was the intent of it? What was the purpose? Does it have classified emails on it?
Interesting that some Hillary aides pointed to a Fox News report on 2 emails described as classified, but were not marked as classified, as helping her defense, although it was classified material in there. Well, one sign that the Hillary Clinton camp might be getting a little nervous about the way this story is playing out was when James Carville surfaced on MSNBC. Take a look.
So is all this part of a vast right-wing conspiracy then?
It's just mostly, you know, stupid media people talking to other stupid media people, making stuff up and spinning themselves up on something that's not going to amount to a hill of beans.
I'm going to let you talk about the rest of us stupid media people. It seems like the mainstream media, Carville aside, has really turned on Hillary, not just on the email debacle, but in kind of describing her as a lousy candidate.
They have. You're seeing these stories. When it was just Republicans attacking Hillary Clinton over Benghazi, for example, the media could say that this was a partisan food fight. But I think a lot of the media, I'm thinking of Ron Fournier, who said, you know, I was going to vote for her, but after this performance, I'm starting to rethink that. So
Fournier of National Journal said a year ago he might even considered working for her because he's known her as a former Arkansas reporter.
Right, so she's becoming very disappointing to the mainstream media that was intending, I think, to support her, at least privately.
It's now even clear to the most liberal of reporters who have been supporting her all along that her email and this email debacle, that her email would have been safer if it would have been entrusted to Ashley Madison. Okay? No, I mean, I make light of it, but the fact is that all the intelligence experts that we have spoken to say that everybody in the world had access to that email server, except the American people, and maybe the FBI, but we don't even know if they'll have access to it.
And what are the consequences of that? We have a candidate, a Secretary of State, who exposed national security secrets, all for what? So that we wouldn't look at them?
On your point, Fred, about liberal journalists, the Washington Post liberal columnist Ruth Marcus today calling out Hillary Clinton for secrecy and self-righteousness, and it's in the form of an open letter saying, can't you do better than this? You know, I reported 6-7 weeks ago Hillary Clinton was going to start doing more national TV interviews. This is what her top people told me. Since then, she's done 2, one with CNN's Breonna Keeler and one with Univision. Doesn't that allow the pressure to build up so when she does hold even a mini news conference, there are all these unanswered questions that reporters are trying to pin her down on?
Yes, it does, because the central question, as I said before, has not been answered since March. She doesn't want to get into another combative question and answer session like she did with Breonna Keeler over her server. When she holds pressers, she can go from Ed to somebody else. She can sort of do her funny faces and her hands in the air and kind of, you know, she can stammer and deflect. It's totally different one-on-one in a televised interview.
So you say she's more vulnerable in a sit-down where a reporter maybe has 15 minutes and can spend 10 of those minutes on one subject.
In fact, nothing is going to help her. No, nothing will help her unless she does a complete 180 here. She really has to turn it around.
I disagree, because I think that when the plus side of sitting down with one reporter, or let's say 5 or 6 or 7 anchors and reporters, is that people get to see more of her. They remember maybe some of them why they liked her in the beginning, and she gets to make some kind of news other than responding to email allegations. She hasn't made any news on anything, even though she's given some policy speeches.
But here's the problem. There's the complicating factor now of the Department of Justice investigating.
Yes.
So they'll be looking at these press conferences and one-on-ones to, compare and contrast her statements versus the evidence they have in front of them.
The reporters who cover her will be forgiving if she says mea culpa, if she changes her strategy here. We tell our clients at 15 seconds, if your strategy is not working, if you've lost the media that's covering you, you've lost.
Well, she is taking a very legalistic approach rather than dealing with the fact that a lot of people have suspicions, as reflected by the polls, about her handling of this. On the other hand, I know there's been a round of stories this weekend, Joe Biden taking a more serious look at running and meeting with Elizabeth Warren, but the fact remains is that she is still a very strong Democratic frontrunner. Is the press pendulum swinging too far now, AB, in suggesting that, she's about to tank?
I don't think that the consensus is that she's going to tank. And I think people have been quite honest about the fact that Joe Biden would have an uphill battle if he chooses to run against her, as opposed to sort of waiting for her to self-immolate and step in at the last minute. However, I have said, and many people have criticized me for saying it, that this may not disqualify her, but if she makes it to the general election, and I think she will, and she loses, it will be because of this email issue entirely.
Which, of course, is a self-inflicted wound.
And exactly. And from day one, that was a self-inflicted wound. Talking in legal terms and using jargon and being defensive and having all that bad body language and bad tone of voice is actually, in the end, it's going to sink her with voters. It doesn't matter what Ed Henry thinks.
Her campaign described this whole mess as nonsense, a disagreement between 2 agencies over classification. The point is, that's a legal defense. It's not a political defense.
Yeah. Every day, reporters want access. The reporters covering Hillary Clinton, whether they're conservative, whether they're liberal, or right down the line, they need access. They have gotten no access. And her doing an interview with Ellen DeGeneres is not access. They're covering this story on the fringes, and they're sick and tired of it.
You don't think Ellen is going to drill down on the email particulars?
Playing footsie with Ellen DeGeneres is not going to make air.
And it's not working. And polls show now that a majority of Americans think that it was wrong of her to use the private email to conduct state business. And, I don't think she can do a mea culpa and answer these questions in a straightforward way because of her original intent.
Is part of this exacerbated by the 25-year history of tensions between Hillary Clinton, going back to when she was First Lady, and journalists who have long viewed her as kind of calculating and defensive?
Certainly, I think that plays into it, and their relationship with her people, her handlers, her spokespeople, who have been very difficult over these years and, sent emails with lots of profanity.
I completely disagree, which is liberal columnists like Eugene Robinson and Ruth Marcus are not fed up with her history of being a Clinton. They're fed up with the fact that her answers now are insulting and they continue to change.
3 weeks ago, I said on this program that Joe Biden had no chance of getting in the race. I want to retract that if this goes on, because that's what's going to happen.
An official retraction from Fred Francis. A good time for me to get a break. Sure you have opinions on this? Send me a tweet about our show, about this topic during this hour, at Howard Kurtz. We'll read the best messages later, and you can email us, mediabuzz@foxnews.com. I had a very mixed media verdict on the private video showing Black Lives Matter protesters confronting Hillary Clinton. But when we come back, should television be giving Donald Trump such seemingly endless airtime?